What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode. As you can see, I am wearing ice fishing gear. So today we are going to be talking about my favorite early ice panfish baits. These are absolute killers, guys. These are the baits that I use every single time I go out on early ice, and they absolutely dominate bluegills and crappies. So we're going to talk about what I use, how I use it, the whole 9 yards. We're gonna get you all set up with these baits so you can go out and pound some early ice panfish. Okay, so first things first, before you do anything, be safe on early ice, guys. Take the time, get a throw rope, go with a buddy, wear a vest, bring your spud, wear your picks, do all the safety stuff, okay? We don't want to see things on the news about people getting hurt or falling through the ice, or God forbid someone passing away because of their negligence. So number one thing above anything else, please be safe on early ice. So obviously, guys, there's a million different baits that you could use early ice, all different kinds of stuff. But today we're going to talk about my top 3 different baits for early ice. And we're going to go into some different bait categories, so it's not going to be all jigs. We're going to talk about a few different bait categories that are going to help you catch more fish through the ice, especially right away when those fish are super hungry, they haven't been spooked yet. These baits are really going to put them on the ice for you. Okay, so right off the bat, plastics. Guys, these fish are hungry. They are hungry. That means that they are not finicky right now. They are going to pound so many different things. You don't want to sit there and waste your time putting a wax worm on and messing with spikes and doing all this stuff. Get some hog pores plastics, guys. These things are absolutely fire, and these 2 colors right here are truly all you need. I crushed fish all season with these last year. Now, when it comes to rigging up your plastics, there's a couple of different tricks that I have that I think are going to work well for you. First bait that I grab when it is early ice, guys, right here. This is a 3mm gold jig, and I've got one of those hog pores little minnow tails on there. You can see the action on that thing is phenomenal. Now, what I will do is I will nip about the first 1/8 inch off the head of that minnow. It just gives a little bit of a smaller profile for those bluegills through the ice. So that is my number 1 bluegill setup. Now, I always tie what I call a Fiska knot, but it's basically a loop knot that goes through here, so this bait will sit in a loop rather than having it cinched down. And that allows this bait, you can see that line tie, it kind of comes off at an angle here. So that allows that bait to sit naturally based on the way that this jig head was made. So that gold 3mm Fiska tungsten paired with that hog pores 1-inch minnow, absolutely fire for early ice bluegills. Now, the next one in my hand, same setup, but just a little bit different. So again, this is a 3mm. So you can see that one there. This one here is also a Fiska, but you can see I left the entire tail intact. This is my Crappie Killer. So if I'm going out early ice and you're jigging for those crappies that are really active and they're coming up right under the ice and they're eating, that nice big pink minnow profile seems to always catch them. And when you're rigging that minnow, you want to make sure that and it seems like, oh my God, you know, how are they going to get all that? The crappie will literally inhale the entire jig. The whole thing will be gone. So don't worry about the hook getting them. Don't worry about this plastic hanging off. All that is a lot of extra action. So make sure that your bait is sitting perfectly straight on the shank of that hook, the tiny little shank that's there. Make sure that it's sitting perfectly straight like that. And that way, when you're jigging, you're going to have that nice, perfect minnow profile. So that's a 1-inch hog pores pink. And that is a 3mm Fiska, and this is a glow pink head. I really like the glow colors, guys. Even in clear water, the glow colors seem to do extremely well for both bluegills and crappies. Now, if you do decide to use live bait, you can see right there in the top of my palm, you've got the Glow Spot Fiska. That is my number 1 favorite ice fishing jig out of all ice fishing jigs I have ever used. That glow spot just seems to catch them no matter what body of water I'm on. If it's dark, if it's clear, doesn't matter. So if you're gonna go to your live bait setup, grab a 3mm glow spot. Looks like, you know, I call it, my nickname is Spotted Cow. That is a phenomenal jig just about anywhere you go. Now, in early ice, one of the things that I'm going to do right off the bat when I'm using those jigs and those plastics, I am going to jig very aggressively. When I get down there, I am boom, 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 boom. I mean, I'm not doing this little subtle little winter jig. I mean, I'm going. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm hoping to attract other fish that are in that area because of the commotion. I will slam that jig on the bottom. I'll make puffs in the mud. I will rip it through the weeds. I will do all sorts of stuff early ice because those fish are still very hungry and very active. They're not quite like summer fish, but they're still very hungry through early ice. So You basically just start off really aggressive, and a lot of times you will be able to get those fish to come up and they will absolutely slam your jig. Another technique, guys, early ice, is to jig just below the ice, because that silhouette, there's a lot of light penetration still when there's only a couple inches of ice. So when you have, you know, let's say 2.5 to 5 inches of ice, there's still a lot of light penetration, especially if there's not snow cover. So I like to use that bait up high in the water column, because there's a silhouette that's coming from that sun going down past the ice, and it's silhouetting your jig. So everything that's looking up is going to be able to see that little silhouette just bopping around up there. So that's another technique, guys, early ice. I really, really love to use something silhouetted against the top under the ice. All right, let's move on to category number 2. So this one is going to focus more on perch and crappies. That being said, bluegills that are aggressive will hit these. I actually had a day out where I was using this exact bait right here, and I caught 42 bluegills on it, and I didn't even have the bait tipped with any sort of live bait. So category 2 is going to be your wrap style baits, or your lipless crankbait style baits. So this one obviously is a rip and wrap from Rapala. This is the little bitty guy. And then the other bait that I have here is from Euro Tackle, and this is the Z Viber. So this is a really nice lightweight bait, so very, very good in the shallower water. And they also make a heavy tungsten model that's even smaller. It's a Z Vibe Junior, and it's even smaller than this one, and that one works extremely well in deeper water. So both of these are very good baits. And again, I mentioned early ice, guys, those fish are not super finicky, so they're not going to shy away from a bigger profile. And a lot of times the biggest fish in those groups are going to come up and they're going to pop something like this, no problem. Now what I found is right away in the morning and right up until, you know, right before it gets dark, those 2 time periods, those low light periods, those are when the biggest fish get really active, and these big profiles oftentimes for me will take the biggest fish during that time. So I might use that jig and plastic all day long, and then right at dark I'll switch over, I'll grab a rod that has one of these bad boys on it, and I'll start working that. And like I said, those crappies, those perch, they will absolutely destroy that. A lot of people don't realize or may not know, but a crappie's favorite meal is either young of the year bluegill or young of the year perch. And that little guy right there absolutely perfectly represents a young of the year bluegill or perch. Perfect profile, the coloration, everything works very well. And same thing with this one. You can see that same rounded baitfish profile. It is the perfect little bluegill. So big crappies absolutely love these bad boys. So don't be afraid to tie on something like this right away, early ice. And again, same technique applies. Right up under the ice where they can come up and they can see that profile. When they come up, this is all they're seeing. This bait's not as intimidating as you think. If you look at the side profile, it looks a little big, but then all of a sudden you look at what a fish sees as they come up from the bottom to the bait, and it's not quite as intimidating. So don't hesitate to tie on one of these baits during early ice, because the bigger fish in the school will absolutely crush them. Last but not least on my top 3 deadliest early ice baits. Now we're gonna go into another category here. Now I could have shown you guys 500 different kinds of jigs and all this different stuff, but I wanted to kind of give you some diversity so that way you could use some different types of stuff when you're going out early ice. Now I mentioned before that everything early ice for me is very aggressive. I do everything very aggressively. So another bait that is great, and this one is also a big bluegill killer, are tiny spoons. Okay, so I got a Castmaster here, and then I have a little Cecil style spoon here. Both of these spoons are very deadly, and not just early ice, but all year round, but especially early ice. This one here in particular is an absolute crappie killer. If you want to catch some big crappies early ice, I highly suggest getting one of these tiny little bladed spoons. Usually they're unpainted on one side and then they're painted on the other side. And crappies just love that little bait fish flash, and they will come up and they will absolutely hammer that under the ice. Now this one here, this Castmaster, I actually use mostly for bluegills. That gold little Castmaster, I think what happens is those bluegills, they think it's a little minnow or a little bait fish down there towards the bottom, and they see that flash and then they come inspect. Now what I will do on this is I will tip it. I'll do 2 white spikes and a red spike, and I will just hook them right through the nose, and then I'll squeeze them, okay? That way there's some entrails hanging out, and they're a little bit more buoyant in the water. They flutter a little bit more. And basically, I think that flash brings those bluegills in. They come in to inspect, and then once they come in, once you see that mark show up on your Vexar or on your live scope, then you're gonna slow down, and you're gonna slow your jigging cadence to just barely a shake. and that's when they'll come up and they'll inhale those spikes right there on that treble hook. But so again, I'm still starting, boom, 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 boom. The thing's flashing, it's darting, all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden I see a mark and then slow down. And I go real slow until that fish comes in and hits that bait. Both of those are definitely deadly options for early ice. And again, crappie and bluegill. Well guys, I hope after watching that video, you are able to put some more weapons in your ice fishing arsenal. Now they say the devil is in the details. So I especially believe that when it comes to fishing, because you can make one little adjustment into a bait, one little thing changes and all of a sudden feeding frenzy and the fish go nuts. So pay close attention to each bait that I showed you today, the color of those baits, the style of those baits, all of those are what I use to crush fish early ice. So the nice thing about my videos, guys, I don't pretend, I don't create false videos. I will literally come on these videos and show you exactly what I use to catch them. So if you guys have questions on this video or on any of the baits or anything like that, go down below and let me know, drop me a comment. Don't forget to like this video, hit that notification button, and also don't forget to subscribe so that you can be notified every time I post my ice videos throughout this winter. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the next one.